My wife cheated with her boss while spending my money, so I stayed quiet and collected proof until the day she learned the exact price of betrayal. I, a 37-year-old male, have been thinking about whether to post this for a while. I figured maybe someone else is in the same boat and could use my experience. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Ryan, and I work in cybersecurity. Yes, I'm good with computers and all that. I was always the quiet, reliable guy who worked hard and played by the rules. I grew up with my dad teaching me about respect and hard work, while my mom showed me how to cook and take care of myself. Dad always said, never let anyone walk all over you. But I guess I forgot that lesson for a while. I met Vanessa, a 35-year-old female, at a friend's barbecue back in 2017. She was gorgeous, blonde, fit, always dressed like she just stepped out of a magazine. She worked at a marketing agency, making decent money, but nothing compared to my senior security analyst salary. We've been married for 3 years after dating for 2. Man, those early days were something else. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. Everything felt balanced, and we both actually cared about making things work. I cooked my dad's famous chili. It was her favorite. She cleaned. I fixed stuff around the house, and she handled the social calendar. We both contributed to bills. It was a partnership, but then things started shifting after our first anniversary. Small stuff at first that I didn't really notice. She stopped cooking those special meals she used to make. She became less interested when I talked about work or my hobbies, and made more demands without doing her part. I brushed it off and made excuses for her. She's stressed from work. Her mom's being difficult again. She's tired. Whatever. I basically came up with every possible explanation, except the obvious one staring me right in the face. I was being used for stability, status, and money while getting less and less in return. My buddy Derek, whom I've known since high school and who works in construction, noticed it before I did. Dude, every time I see you guys, she's on her phone ignoring you, and you're carrying everything, he said during a poker night. I laughed it off and told him to mind his own marriage. I should have listened. The moment I finally woke up happened after I worked a 16-hour shift dealing with a major security breach at the company. I came home exhausted to a dark house at 11 p.m. There was no dinner, even though she'd been home all day. The sink was piled with her dishes from breakfast and lunch. The laundry I'd asked her to handle sat untouched. Yet somehow she had found time to get her $200 nails done, have a $90 lunch with friends at that trendy bistro downtown, and buy a new $350 purse. Her Instagram story with the caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it," confirmed all that. When I asked about the housework we had agreed to share, she literally rolled her eyes at me. "I didn't sign up to be a housewife," she said, not even looking up from her phone as she texted her bestie, Megan, another entitled princess who married some banker guy. "Are you kidding me right now?" I said, my voice rising. "I worked 16 hours keeping our company from losing millions in a cyber attack, and you can't even put clothes in the dryer." "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Ryan," she snapped. "I had a busy day too." That busy day was a literal spa day, according to her location tags. I told her I wasn't asking for a housewife, just a partner. That's when she dropped the bomb that changed everything. She straight up told me she wanted the marriage perks without the duties. "What exactly do you think you're contributing to this relationship?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked genuinely surprised at the question. "I'm your wife. My presence should be enough." Then, she literally waved her hand around her body like she was a prize on a game show. "You should be grateful I chose you. Do you know how many guys would kill to be with someone like me?" Then she listed her contributions. She attended company events with me, where she spent the entire time networking for her own career. She maintained her appearance using my credit card, and she hadn't cheated. That I knew of. Like fidelity was some special favor instead of the basic bare minimum in a marriage. "Most guys would be thrilled to have a hot wife who lets them have sex with her," she actually said to my face. I was speechless that night, sleeping on the couch because she had her toxic friends Megan and Tiffany over late, drinking my expensive whiskey and scream-laughing at reality TV while I needed rest before another early shift. Something broke inside me, not my heart, my illusion. I realized I'd been living in a completely one-sided relationship where I gave everything while she took. I'd become an ATM with a dick, nothing more. I went to work the next morning with this weird new clarity, like someone had adjusted the focus on a blurry picture. I drove the 45 minutes to my office in silence. No podcast, no music, just thinking. I thought about how she spent the money I earned, $140,000 per year plus bonuses, while keeping her own separate, barely $55,000. How she enjoyed the house I mostly paid for without lifting a finger to maintain it. How she leveraged our marriage for social status but treated me like an afterthought. I called Derek on my lunch break and finally opened up. "Sounds like you married my ex," he said. "Time to grow a spine and show her there are consequences." I didn't initially want revenge or drama. I'm not naturally that type of guy. My dad raised me to be respectful and fair. But I was starting to realize that sometimes justice looks like revenge to entitled people. I wanted equality, or at the very least, to stop being taken advantage of. If she wanted the perks of marriage without the duties, then maybe. It was time she experienced exactly what she was giving. Nothing. That day, I opened a new encrypted spreadsheet at work. At the top, I typed cold justice plan. Under it, I started mapping out exactly how I would give her exactly what she was giving me. No more, no less. Not just out of self-preservation, but as a wake-up call she desperately needed. The morning after that eye-opening conversation, I sat in my car before heading into work and made a detailed list of everything Vanessa had stopped contributing to our marriage. The list was depressingly long. Cooking. She hadn't made a meal in 4 months. Cleaning. Her clothes were constantly on the floor. Emotional support. I couldn't remember the last time she asked about my day. Sex. Twice in the last 3 months. Both times she just lay there, on her phone half the time. Financial contribution to shared expenses. Maybe $500 a month to my 4,000 plus, and even basic respect. She constantly interrupted me and mocked my hobbies to her friends. Yet, she expected premium housing, our $750,000 home, social status. As a married woman, Mrs. Cybersecurity Executive was literally in her Instagram bio. Access to my premium health insurance. Inclusion on my family vacations, my parents' lake house. She loved to show off on social media, and full use of my credit for major purchases. I decided my first move would be financial. For years, we'd had a joint account where I deposited 80% of my income, about $9,000, a month after taxes, while she contributed sporadically, claiming her marketing job didn't pay enough. Meanwhile, she maintained a separate personal account I had no access to. When I checked our joint account that morning, I discovered she had withdrawn $1,700 for shopping just the day before, while claiming we needed to cut back on groceries because inflation is killing us. Her words when I wanted to buy steaks last week. That afternoon, I visited the bank and opened my own separate account at a completely different bank where she had no relationship. I transferred 75% of the joint funds there, about $22,000, leaving just enough to cover the immediate bills. I set up my direct deposit to send only a fixed percentage to the joint account, exactly matching the percentage of her income she contributed, which worked out to about 12%. The rest would go to my new account. I also immediately ordered a new credit card in just my name with points that would benefit only me. My banker buddy Mike helped me out. "Seen this 1,000 times, man," he said. "Guys letting their wives drain them dry. Good for you for putting a stop to it." When I returned home that evening, she was waiting with this calculated smile that I now recognized as her manipulation face. Head tilted, one hip cocked, that fake innocent look. "I've been thinking about our conversation," she said, sidling up to me, wearing the tight dress I once complimented. I was stressed. "You know I appreciate everything you do." Her hand slid down my arm as she mentioned wanting to book a weekend getaway to a $900 per night resort in Napa that she clearly expected me to fund entirely. "Sounds nice," I replied neutrally. "Let's split the cost evenly since we both work." Her smile faltered momentarily before she recovered. "You know, my job doesn't pay much. I was thinking you could cover it as a gift. Plus, Megan and Brad are going the same weekend and already booked." Ah, so this was about keeping up with her friend. The entitlement in her voice was unmistakable now that I was listening for it. Every sentence started with "I want" or "I need," but never "we" anymore. "I'm cutting back on expenses," I said simply. "I updated our banking arrangement today to be more proportional to our incomes." The calculated warmth vanished instantly. Her eyes widened, and her face flushed red. "You did what? Without discussing it with me first?" she shrieked, actually stamping her foot like a toddler. The irony of her demanding discussions about financial changes when she'd been making withdrawals without consultation for years wasn't lost on me. "I'm just matching your approach," I explained calmly. "You keep your personal money separate, and now I'll do the same. I'll contribute proportionately to our joint expenses, just as you do, about 12% by my calculation." "12%? That's ridiculous. How am I supposed to live on that?" she shrieked. "The same way I'm supposed to live on 88% of the bills, I guess," I replied. The argument that followed was revealing. She accused me of everything from cruelty to betrayal, yet couldn't articulate why it was acceptable for her to have financial independence, but not me. When she realized I wouldn't budge, she switched tactics, crying those fake tears I'd fallen for so many times, mascara strategically running, claiming I didn't trust her anymore. Trust is earned through actions, I responded. Your actions show you want independence, not partnership. I'm respecting your choice by doing the same. But how will I pay for girls' night and my facial next week? She actually asked through her tears, not how will we pay the mortgage, but how she'd fund her luxuries. Mask officially dropped. Over the next week, I continued implementing my reciprocity plan. I cooked meals only for myself, matching her behavior of the past months. I cleaned only my own messes. When she left dishes in the sink, they stayed there until she handled them. I did my own laundry, but not hers. The breaking point came when she needed a ride after her car wouldn't start. For years, I dropped everything to help her with such emergencies. This time, I responded with the same excuse she'd given when I'd asked her to pick me up during a snowstorm. Sorry, I'm in the middle of something important. Can you call an Uber? I texted. Are you serious right now? I'm your wife, she texted back. Yes, and I'm your husband. I'm just giving you what you give me. I replied that evening. She confronted me directly. What's happened to you? You've changed. Nothing's happened to me, I answered honestly. I've just started to value myself enough to expect reciprocity. I'm matching your investment in this marriage. Nothing more, nothing less. She stormed off to stay at her friend's place. I felt no satisfaction, only a grim determination to continue the course I'd set. This wasn't about punishment. It was about establishing boundaries after years of one-sided compromise. By the third week of my new approach, the dynamic between us had shifted dramatically. She returned from her friend's place after 2 days, expecting me to have come to my senses. Instead, she found me perfectly content with the new arrangement. The power imbalance that had defined our relationship was dissolving, and she clearly didn't know how to handle it. Her first strategy was to weaponize sex. After months of rejecting my advances with excuses about headaches or fatigue, she suddenly appeared in the bedroom wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. When I politely declined, citing the same tired excuse she'd used countless times, her expression was priceless, a mixture of shock and indignation, like her hotness alone should command my immediate attention regardless of her previous rejections. Is there someone else? She demanded, immediately jumping to accusations rather than self-reflection. No, I replied honestly. I'm just matching your level of interest. When you start showing consistent desire for intimacy, rather than using it as a manipulation tool, I'll respond in kind. This led to her second strategy, involving others in our private matters. The next day, my phone blew up with messages from her family members questioning why I was mistreating her. According to her carefully crafted narrative, I had suddenly become controlling and cold for no reason. She had conveniently left out the years of imbalance that led to my change in behavior. Rather than getting into it with her family, I responded to each message with a simple, I appreciate your concern, but this is between my wife and me. Meanwhile, I documented every manipulation attempt in a journal, not out of pettiness, but as a reality check for myself when doubts crept in. Her third strategy emerged during a dinner with our closest friends. It was a calculated public performance. She was excessively affectionate, repeatedly mentioning things she'd supposedly done for me, most of which never happened. When our friends asked about our plans for the upcoming holiday weekend, she jumped in. We're thinking of going to the lake house. He works so hard, and I want to treat him. The lake house belonged to my family. The treat would come entirely from my pocket. Our friends nodded approvingly at her apparent generosity. Actually, I interjected calmly, we haven't discussed any plans yet. If you'd like to plan a trip, we should talk about how we'll split the costs. The momentary flash of anger in her eyes was quickly masked with a laugh. Oh, he's so practical these days, she told our friends, squeezing my arm with fingernails that dug a little too deep. After our friends left, she exploded. How dare you contradict me in front of them? You made me look bad. I simply stated the truth, I replied. If you want to present yourself as generous, make genuinely generous offers that don't rely on my resources. The confrontation escalated until she threw her trump card. My father always said I deserved a man who would provide everything for me without question. Maybe he was right about you not being good enough. For years, that comparison to some imaginary perfect provider would have cut deep. This time, I simply nodded. You're entitled to that view, and I'm entitled to expect partnership rather than servitude. If that's not what you want, perhaps we should reconsider this marriage. The suggestion of ending things coming from me, rather than as her manipulative threat, visibly unsettled her. The financial reality of divorce suddenly seemed to dawn on her. Without access to my income, her lifestyle would change dramatically. Her expression shifted from anger to calculation in an instant. "I don't want that," she said, her voice softening. "We can work this out." I agreed we could, but only with clear expectations of reciprocity. That night, for the first time in years, she washed the dinner dishes without being asked. It was a small gesture, but it revealed something crucial. She was capable of contributing when properly motivated. The real test came the following weekend when my car needed repairs. For years, I'd handled all vehicle maintenance for both our cars. This time, I took mine to the shop but left hers with its overdue oil change unaddressed. "When are you going to take my car in?" she asked, clearly expecting me to handle it as usual. "I'm not," I replied simply. "I take care of my car, you take care of yours. That's equality." As she struggled to comprehend this new reality where her problems weren't automatically mine to solve, I realized something important. This wasn't just about saving my marriage anymore. It was about saving myself from a lifetime of one-sided sacrifice that would eventually leave me empty. A month into my reciprocity plan, the confrontation I'd been anticipating finally happened. It began with a credit card statement that arrived in the mail, $3,200. Charged to a joint credit card, mostly for designer clothing and expensive salon treatments. For years I had silently absorbed these costs, despite our agreement to discuss any purchase over $200. Those days were over. I placed the statement on the kitchen counter and texted her that we needed to discuss it when she got home. She responded with a casual whatever that showed she still didn't grasp the fundamental shift in our dynamic. When she arrived home and saw me sitting calmly at the kitchen table with the statement before me, her expression flickered between defiance and calculation. She opted for the approach that had always worked in the past, distraction. "You wouldn't believe the day I've had," she began, launching into a detailed story about workplace drama. I listened politely, waiting for her to finish before quietly redirecting. "About the credit card charges," I said, tapping the statement. "I'll be paying my portion of the shared household expenses. The personal items you purchased will need to come from your account." She froze. "That's not how we've ever done things." "The past arrangement wasn't working for me," I replied calmly. "Just as you decided unilaterally that certain marital duties weren't working for you." Her voice rose immediately. "So, this is punishment for not being your personal chef and maid?" "This isn't punishment," I corrected. "It's consequence. You wanted independence from traditional expectations while maintaining traditional benefits. I'm simply applying that same principle to finances." What followed was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. She accused me of changing the rules mid-game. I pointed out that she had changed them first when she decided marriage was a one-way street of benefits. She claimed I was being petty. I suggested I was being precise, giving exactly what I received. "Do you even love me anymore?" she demanded, tears forming. Tears I had seen before when logic failed and emotional manipulation became her weapon of choice. "I married you because I loved you," I answered truthfully. "But love requires respect to survive, and respect requires reciprocity." The argument escalated until she grabbed her phone and called her father, putting him on speaker with a triumphant look. I recognized the tactic immediately. She was mobilizing her strongest ally, expecting me to back down as I had in previous disagreements. "Daddy, he's refusing to pay the credit card bill," she said, her voice suddenly small and victimized. Her father's gruff voice filled the kitchen. "What's the problem here? A real man takes care of his wife's needs without complaining." In the past, I would have acquiesced under this pressure. This time, I spoke directly and confidently. "Sir, with respect, a real partnership involves mutual support and contribution. I'm happy to discuss this with my wife, but this is between us." The silence that followed was deep. Her father, not used to being challenged, sputtered before demanding to speak to his daughter alone. She took the call to another room, but I could hear her increasingly agitated voice. As her father apparently failed to provide the intervention she had expected, she returned 20 minutes later, face flushed with anger. "He says I should consider whether this marriage is working for me." "That's a fair question," I agreed. "One we should both consider. Is a relationship based on authentic partnership something you actually want?" Uncertainty flickered across her face. The script wasn't playing out as expected. Her usual tactics were failing, and she seemed genuinely unsure how to proceed without them. That night, a surprising shift occurred. Without discussion, she prepared dinner for both of us, something she hadn't done in months. It wasn't a fancy meal, just pasta with jarred sauce, but the gesture itself spoke volumes. She was testing whether reciprocity could actually work in her favor, too. As we ate in relative silence, I realized this wasn't just about correcting an imbalanced relationship anymore. It was about discovering whether there was anything left between us worth salvaging. Once the manipulations and one-sided expectations were stripped away, the tentative peace established after our honest conversation lasted precisely 3 weeks before the final confrontation arrived. In those weeks, we had existed in an uneasy truce. She made sporadic efforts toward genuine partnership, handling some household responsibilities, contributing to decisions, even initiating intimacy without ulterior motives. I matched her efforts exactly, maintaining the principle of reciprocity while watching her closely. Then came the credit card bill from her weekend trip with Megan and Tiffany, a $6,900 charge to our joint account. The charges included luxury spa treatments, $2,200, expensive dinners, $1,500, high-end boutique purchases, $3,000, and even a psychic reading, $200, well beyond our agreed spending limits. What made it worse was finding the statement deliberately hidden beneath a stack of magazines rather than in our usual mail location. When confronted, she initially denied knowing anything about it. Must be fraud, she claimed. When shown the actual itemized statement with her signature, she switched to justification. I work hard. I deserve nice things, she said, actually stomping her foot again. I agree that everyone deserves rewards for their work, I replied, but those rewards should align with their contribution and come from their own earnings. Her eyes narrowed. So you're refusing to pay it? I'll cover my half of our shared household expenses as agreed, I said. The personal luxuries are your responsibility. The calculation behind her next move was visible in real time as her expression shifted from anger to a practiced vulnerability. I can't afford this on my own, she admitted, voice deliberately small. My job doesn't pay enough. Then perhaps luxury spa weekends shouldn't be a priority, I suggested. Or perhaps a better-paying job might be something to consider. I hear Starbucks is hiring. They give benefits, too. She stared at me as if I'd suggested something outrageous rather than the basic financial responsibility most adults navigate daily. Then came the ultimatum I had half expected for months. If you don't pay this bill in full, I want a divorce. The words hung in the air between us. In the past, such a threat would have sent me scrambling to placate her to preserve a marriage I had invested so much in, despite its increasing returns of misery. This time, I felt an unexpected calm. I understand, I replied simply. If that's your decision, I'll respect it. My response clearly wasn't what she had anticipated. She backpedaled immediately. I don't actually want that. I just need you to understand how serious this is. I do understand, I assured her. You're saying that unless I fund luxury purchases made without consultation, our marriage isn't viable from your perspective. That clarifies your priorities perfectly. She tried several more emotional appeals, ranging from accusations of cruelty to reminders of how good we used to be together. When these failed, she switched to threats about taking half of everything in a divorce, clearly expecting this financial leverage to force my compliance. You're absolutely entitled to a fair division of our marital assets, I agreed calmly. I've already consulted an attorney about equitable distribution based on contribution. What I didn't tell her was that I'd been documenting everything for months, had already moved some assets, and had been getting advice from Mike at the bank, who'd seen this scenario countless times. The mention of an attorney silenced her momentarily. You've talked to a lawyer behind my back? I've prepared for the possibility that reciprocity might not be acceptable to you long-term, I explained, just as you prepared for financial independence by maintaining separate accounts throughout our marriage. In the stunned silence that followed, I added, I would prefer to build something authentic with you, but I won't return to an arrangement where I give everything and receive little in return. She left the house without another word. Late that night, she returned and made one final attempt, seduction as manipulation, the strategy that had resolved countless arguments in the past by bypassing genuine resolution. I declined firmly, explaining that intimacy should be an expression of connection, not a tool for control. The rejection seemed to finally cement the reality of our new dynamic. She packed an overnight bag and announced she would be staying with her sister until you come to your senses. 3 days later, I received divorce papers. But this is where my story takes a different turn than you might expect. My preparation had been more thorough than she could have imagined. When she was served with my counterfiling, it included 1. Screenshots of her admitting to deliberately hiding expenses in texts to Megan, 2. Bank statements showing her pattern of financial abuse, 3. Documentation Of the actual household contribution split, 88 to 12, 4 screenshots of her mocking me to. Her friends, 5, evidence she'd been planning to upgrade husbands once I got my expected promotion. The week after she received these papers, the bottom fell out of her life. Her company announced layoffs, and her position was eliminated. Her toxic friend, Megan, going through her own divorce, couldn't help her financially. Her credit cards were maxed out from the spa weekend and shopping sprees. That's when the text started coming. We should talk about this in person. I think I was too hasty. Can I come home just to discuss things? I didn't respond for 3 days. When I did, I simply wrote, "You can come by Saturday at 10 a.m. to discuss financial matters." When she arrived, gone was the entitled princess. In her place was a desperate woman who'd suddenly realized actions have consequences. She'd lost weight. Her designer clothes were replaced with simple jeans and a sweater. "Ryan," she started, tears already forming, "I've been doing a lot of thinking. I miss us. I miss what we had." "Which part?" I asked. "The part where I paid for everything while you contributed nothing? The part where you mocked me to your friends? Or the part where you told Megan you were planning to trade up to a richer husband?" Her face went white. "You saw those texts?" "I saw everything, Vanessa. The plans, the manipulation, all of it. I didn't mean any of it," she sobbed. "I was stupid and spoiled, and I need you. They laid me off. My cards are maxed out. Megan can't help me." And there it was. Not "I love you" or "I was wrong," but "I need you." Specifically, she needed my money. "So to be clear," I said calmly, "now that you're in financial trouble, you've decided our marriage is worth saving." She nodded eagerly. "I can change. I'll do the housework. I'll contribute more. Whatever you want." I took a deep breath. I want a partner, not a dependent who behaves when she's desperate. The divorce proceeds as planned. What followed was the most spectacular meltdown I'd ever witnessed. Screaming, begging, threatening, all in the space of minutes. She actually got on her knees and grabbed my legs, mascara streaming down her face. "Please, Ryan, I'll do anything." "I have nowhere to go. My parents won't help me. They said I made my bed." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "You had a husband who would have done anything for you," I said. "You chose entitlement over partnership. Those choices have consequences." As she left, she turned at the door. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Get a job, Vanessa," I replied, "like the rest of us." 6 weeks later, our divorce was finalized with terms that heavily favored me based on the evidence. She got nothing beyond the legal minimum, which wasn't much given our short marriage and the documentation of her contribution, or lack thereof. Through mutual friends, I heard she moved to a studio apartment and took a job as an executive assistant, a major step down from her marketing role. Her Instagram, once full of luxury posts, went quiet. A year after the divorce, I got a letter from her. It was actually thoughtful and reflective, acknowledging her entitlement and mistakes. Too little, too late, but it suggested she might eventually grow as a person. Meanwhile, my life improved dramatically. The promotion came through, raising my salary to $180,000. I paid off our house, now just mine, started traveling more, and reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage. Derek introduced me to his wife's friend, Sarah, a pediatric nurse who paid her own way. Cooked amazing meals because she enjoyed it, and actually listened when I talked. The difference was night and day. Last month, something unexpected happened. I was at a high-end steakhouse with my new girlfriend, celebrating my promotion to Chief Information Security Officer. $250,000 now, plus stock options. We were enjoying our $200 bottle of wine when Vanessa walked up to our table. She wasn't a customer, she was our server. "Ryan," she said, her voice small. The expensive highlights were gone, the designer clothes replaced with a server's uniform. "How are you?" "I'm great," I said honestly. I introduced Sarah, who gave a polite smile. "That's good," Vanessa said, her eyes darting between us, lingering on Sarah's hand on mine. "Can I get you anything else?" "Just the check when you get a chance," I replied. No spite, no gloating. I genuinely felt nothing but mild pity. As she walked away, Sarah asked, "Ex-wife?" "Yep." "You never told me she was working as a server." "I didn't know," I said truthfully. "But I'm not surprised. Actions have consequences." When Vanessa brought the check, she slipped a note underneath. I waited until we left to read it. "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't understand what I had until it was gone. You were right about everything. I had to learn the hard way that the world doesn't owe me anything. If you ever want to catch up, I'd like to apologize properly." I crumpled it up and tossed it in a trash can outside the restaurant. Sarah gave me a questioning look. The past should stay in the past, I said. I've got everything I need right here. 2 weeks after that encounter, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It's Vanessa. Please, can we talk? I've lost everything. My apartment is being foreclosed. I have nowhere to go. My parents won't help. I made terrible mistakes. I know I don't deserve your help, but I don't know who else to turn to. I showed it to Derek over beers that night. Don't fall for it, bro, he warned. Classic manipulation. I have no intention of rescuing her, I assured him, but I am curious what she wants. I agreed to meet her for coffee in public. When she showed up, I barely recognized her. The woman who once spent $800 on skincare each month looked tired, worn down. Life had clearly been rough since our divorce. Thank you for coming, she said, wringing her hands. I don't know where to start. How about the truth for once? I suggested. She broke down right there in the coffee shop. Through her tears, she confessed everything. How she'd taken me for granted. How she'd used me. How she'd planned to upgrade once I got successful enough. She admitted to cheating once with her boss, which I hadn't known about, and how karma got her when he fired her during the layoffs despite their affair. I've hit rock bottom, she said finally. I owe $40,000 in credit card debt. I've been evicted from my apartment. My car was repossessed last week. Megan won't talk to me anymore since her divorce. I have nothing. Then came the real purpose of the meeting. I was hoping maybe I could stay at the house for a little while, just until I get back on my feet. I wouldn't be in your way. I could help around the house like before. I mean, better than before. I almost laughed at the irony. Now that she'd experienced the consequences of her actions, suddenly she was willing to contribute. Vanessa, I said gently but firmly, what you're experiencing now are the natural consequences of your choices, the entitlement, the manipulation, the taking without giving. It all led here. I can't rescue you from that, but I'll do anything, she pleaded, reaching for my hand across the table. I've changed. I've learned my lesson. If you've truly changed, then you'll find your way without using someone else as a crutch. That's what mature adults do. As I stood to leave, I placed $500 in cash on the table. This is a one-time gesture, not because you deserve it, but because I choose to be kind despite how you treated me. Use it to get a bus ticket to your parents or find a room to rent. After this, don't contact me again. The mixture of gratitude and humiliation on her face was something I'll never forget. I walked away feeling not satisfaction but closure. I had given her exactly what she had given me during our marriage, the bare minimum. And now I was free to give someone deserving so much more. 3 years have passed since the divorce, and 5 months since that coffee shop meeting. I heard through mutual friends that Vanessa eventually moved back to her hometown, got a job as a receptionist, and is living with a roommate in a small apartment. Her social media is gone. No more flaunting a lifestyle she didn't earn. Meanwhile, Sarah moved in last month. We share expenses equally despite my much higher income, because that's what she insists on. She cooks because she enjoys it, not because she has to. I handle the yard work because I find it relaxing. When one of us has a rough day, the other picks up the slack without keeping score. It's what a partnership should be. Sometimes my mind drifts back to that spreadsheet, my cold justice plan, that saved me from a lifetime of being used. It wasn't about revenge in the end, though the justice was certainly satisfying. It was about valuing myself enough to demand reciprocity, about recognizing that healthy relationships can't survive when one person consistently takes while the other gives. The most important lesson I learned: people who truly value you won't see basic respect and contribution as optional. They'll give freely because they want to, not because they're forced to, and they certainly won't wait until they're desperate to start treating you right. So, any guys reading this who recognize yourselves in my story, you're not crazy. You're not selfish for wanting balance, and you're not obligated to fund someone else's entitled lifestyle. Stand up for yourself before it's too late. The right person won't make you fight for basic respect.